My name is Enno Popkes and I'm a professor at the University of Kiel in the north of Germany. And my professorship is dedicated to a very special topic, namely history and archaeology of early Christianity and its environment. And environment is not the nature environment, but the kinds of schools of philosophy and religion around the development of early Christianity. And in this tradition we find many analogies to near-death experiences and related phenomena, and I try to connect those ancient discussions with our discussions today. This started very early in my life. I was about 14 years old when I found the first book of Raymond Moody in a bookstore. I saw it, I bought it, I read it, and I was absolutely fascinated. And I'd asked myself, is this really the truth? And so I asked my family, my friends, what do you think about this phenomena? Have you heard about it? And what would you say, what is this? And the range of answers was almost the same like today. Some say this are just dreams indicated by medicine or drugs. Others say this can't be true because the message of near-death experiences does not fit to the message of the Bible. Especially this motif of unconditional love does not fit to the expectation of hell and heaven. And so I was totally triggered by all these questions that I decided very early to study theology and philosophy, and I tried to find my answers. I think there will be a scientific explanation, and to my opinion, near-death experiences and related phenomena have the potential for a revolution, a reformation and a renaissance. A revolution regarding the central scientific question, namely the so-called mind-body problem. A reformation for all those kinds of early Christian traditions which has been suppressed and abandoned within the development of early Christianity, and a renaissance for worldview of the philosophy of Plato and of so-called Platonic Christianity, because there were many aspects in early Christianity which have huge analogies to near-death experiences. I think there will be a paradigm shift within the mind-body problem in the future, and I hope so that this development will develop very soon. One aspect which was common to many people in the ancient world is that this world is the creation of God. And there are much more dimensions in this creation as just the kind of life forms on earth. For example, in the hymn of the Colossians, there is a differentiation between the visible and the non-visible world. And now we have the question, are there relations between the visible and the non-visible world? And the main problem could be explained with the famous parable of the cave of Plato, because according to Plato we are living in a cave. And we are living that we could see just in one direction the cave, and namely the back wall of the cave. And on this back wall we see shadows. Shadows which are projected by objects which are at the exit of the wall, and we see the shadows and we think this is the reality, this is full reality. And to Plato, sometimes people are freed from to go outside the cave, and they recognize suddenly there's much more as in the cave as the shadows. All these objects have colors, they have a certain dimension, and then they send back into the cave to tell other people you don't see the full reality. And this is a problem. Because the famous student of Plato, Aristotle, says, no, the cave is the reality and the shadow is the reality. To my opinion, the picture of this parable of the cave is the best description of the problems of people who have near-death experiences. According to the parable of the caves, the person who is leaving the cave is similar to the person who has near-death experiences. And many near-death experiences have the problem that they can't be described exactly. Many people say after such an experience, we don't have the words and the dimensions to describe it. And that is similar to the problem when a person has left the cave and has to go back and describe what the world outside the cave looks like. That's the same problem. And for me, the best reflection of this problem of people with near-death experiences. Plato, the soul is immortal and the body is mortal. And the soul is, according to Plato, a plant. And the earth is a greenhouse for this plant. And this plant is growing within many reincarnations. So Plato has a very reflected doctrine of the transmigration of souls. And the soul is more and more developing to be similar to God. Some people might be surprised, even in early Christianity, we have these traditions. Even in early Christianity, we know concepts of a transmigration of souls, but this concept was totally criticized and abandoned. And my professorship is dedicated exactly to those voices of early Christianity which was abandoned within the history of early Christianity. For instance, a famous text is the so-called Gospel of Thomas. And within the Gospel of Thomas, we have many aspects of transmigration of souls and the immortal soul. And we have many analogies to near-death experiences. For instance, in the Jesus saying number 50, Jesus gives an instruction to his disciple where they are from. Yeah, it's the following word. Jesus says, if they ask you, where are you from? Say to them, we are out of the light, the area where the light develops through itself. With other words, all human beings came out of the divine light. That's exactly similar to near-death experiences. And to my opinion, the most famous saying of Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas is Gospel word 77, a well-known word. Jesus says, I am the light. It's exactly similar to the Gospel of John, but the difference are what consequences the self-understanding of Jesus has for the rest of humanity. Because according to the Gospel of John, just Jesus is the one light, not the other persons. But according to the Gospel of Thomas, every human being came out of this light and has this light within himself. And Jesus is one of the first incarnation of this divine light in the mortal body. And this was a conflict between the people behind the Gospel of John and behind the Gospel of Thomas. And during the development of our Christianity, the Gospel of John became one of the most important testimonies of early Christianity, and the Gospel of Thomas was abandoned. And I tried to restart the discussions between these early Christian testimonies, and this will be a part of the further discussions regarding near-death experiences. So many people who had near-death experiences had a so-called life review, and often it is said the only important aspects are the depths of love, righteousness, and something word used like this. And to me, that fits perfectly to early Christianity and even Platonism, because in some Christian tradition, we say God is love, and the love commandment is the center of the message of Jesus. According to Plato, every soul has to become more and more equal to God, and God is pure good. And every people who becomes similar to God is good, righteousness, and something like this. So the message of near-death experiences and early Christianity and Platonism fits together. First, I want to go back to early Christianity, because if someone asks himself what is the beginning of early Christianity, many people, and so I do, says the faith in the resurrection of Jesus. But the problem is, from the beginning, it was unclear what is resurrection. There was not just one concept of resurrection, but many different understandings of resurrection. And we have to add one aspect, because there's not only this one body that we feel now. There were concepts of different forms of bodies. For instance, Paul refers to this problem in his first letter to the community in Corinth, chapter 15, when he is just, there's the difference between this body and a heavenly body. And the question is how these different kinds of bodies relate to each other. And now we could go to near-death experiences because many people in near-death experiences say, I could see my earthly body from outside, but I was not without a body. I had a different body, and to my opinion, this fits to this differentiation between an earthly body and a heavenly body. And we have some traditions regarding the resurrection of Jesus, where it's said Jesus had not this earthly body, but we have seen him with his heavenly body. And this was a problem. For instance, in the Gospel of Luke, we can find a tradition where the resurrected Jesus says, "This is really my body. You can touch me. I could even eat something." And we have texts outside the Bible, for instance, the so-called Sophia Jesu Christi, where it's exactly the opposite is said. No, it was his pneumatic body, not his earthly body. And I think that all this tradition in early Christianity could now be seen in new perspectives against the background of near-death experiences. And to my opinion, especially the distinction between this earthly body and this pneumatic body, heavenly body, is very important. And I think we will have many discussions regarding this. And we have a very nice situation for this, because in a few years we have 2000 years anniversary of the ministry of Jesus. So we have the opportunity to rethink all those aspects.